everyone. I never know exactly when we're live, but say hi if you're watching. I'm so excited. I have here for the very first time my friend and fellow coach, Mat Shaffer.
Hello. So good to see y'all in person. Yes. I'm finally in the same room as Helena.
I know, for the first time ever. This is so much fun. We're super excited for this topic. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 things a man needs in order to fall in love and truly commit for a full-time, real relationship. And number 5, we've found is crucial and probably where we see the most women struggling. I'm sure you guys all are familiar with Mat Shaffer, right? But in case you're not, he is hello, Maria. Hi. Let us know where you're watching from, everybody. Toronto. Awesome. Mat is an empowerment, connection, and relationship coach who helps women connect more deeply to themselves so they can connect with their partners. I hope I said that correctly.
You nailed it. You nailed it. Best she's done so far. Yeah. Usually
right?
It's like 1 to 2 out of 3.
I know. So we're super excited, and we are going to be answering questions at the end. So if you guys have questions for us, type them into the chat and we will answer those at the end. Mat, is there anything you want to say before we jump into this topic? We're super excited.
Well, I'm super stoked to be here. It's so wonderful to connect with y'all on Helena's channel. I mean, this is what started my whole YouTube career, was doing a live with Helena.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mat, and I tell everybody this, all my friends who have the best thing that has happened to my channel this year so far has been Mat coming on board, connecting, just having the time and the schedule to be able to connect with and work with so many of you guys, setting up free calls and free courses for all of you. Best thing that's happened in my community this year. And I say that to everybody. I really mean that. So I'm super excited for this.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And along those lines, ladies, I am launching another run of my course, Mastery of Connection, for free for Helena's community. I did this, about 3-4 months ago. And I think we had about 1,000 women from Helena's community in the course. It was an incredible experience. My course, Mastery of Connection, is all around how to really understand who you are and how you connect with men and other people out in the world so you can create incredible relationships. So I'm really excited to have another launch of that course. We're going to start December 1st. There's a link in the caption of this video for you to fill out an application and sign up to be one of my students. So it's 100% free as a gift to Helena for her incredible community, which has really been such a huge step in my career.
Yeah, really go check out Mat Shaffer's channel, to just Mat Shaffer on YouTube, right? You can search his name. I'll include a link in the description when we're done with this. His channel is totally taking off, and it was like 8 or 9 months ago when we did our first live stream. So
and
amazing.
I had no channel.
Exactly,
and I'm like, because of the incredible experience I had with Helena and with y'all, that you guys were my inspiration to start this entire chapter of my career. So thank you for that.
And so we're so excited. It looks like we have a good amount of people joining. Hello, everyone who's commenting, letting us know where you're watching from. We'll get to all your questions at the end, so make sure to type those into the chat. Okay, what is that first thing that a man needs to fall in love and truly commit?
Well, I wanted to come up with a fun framework to understand these concepts. And so I thought, what would be a better way to do this than the analogy of baking bread. So not to say that I've ever really baked bread, but I have baked some things that I know. But the process of baking bread gives us a great way to understand the things that men need to sort of step by step create a powerful relationship with them. So what is the first step of baking bread, right? It's to have the right ingredients in the right proportion. And just like bread, men need that. Men need the right, in order to foster a great connection with a man, you need to bring the right ingredients in the right proportion into the relational container. So anytime you're connecting with a man, you're creating a bond, you're creating a container with him. And what are you bringing into that space, right? Looking at your feminine energy, right? Looking at what is the dynamic of masculine and feminine between you and your partner? Because if that's off, if you're coming in and you're carrying a lot of masculine energy, you're carrying a lot of stress, you're bringing in a lot of walls into the container, the man is not going to feel safe to really let his walls down and connect with you. You can't have 2 people on the masculine side of the relational container. It doesn't work. So that's one of those primary ingredients that if you don't have it, you're never going to make any love bread. So
I love that.
I will keep bringing this piece of stale bread up as many times as necessary.
Do you see the bread emojis? I was trying to get one. This is actually a funny story about this bread was in my freezer. I think this is Mark Rosenfeld's gluten-free bread that he had here. Or someone, maybe it was Matt or Mike, or somebody brought their gluten-free bread over, and it's been in my freezer for like 6 months. So I was looking for bread. That's the only thing I had in my fridge. So we're using it. And yes, Mark, that's your bread. Come get it.
It's like a hockey puck now. Just Mark, you don't want this bread.
I was like, why do I still have this in here? So yes, thank you for the bread emojis, Dee Dee. I love it. I was trying to get a bread emoji on the title. I couldn't figure out how to do it. So yeah, I mean, I talk about this all the time, right? The dynamics of masculine and feminine energy. You guys are all pretty familiar about that, right? But if you have questions about that, type it into the chat. Would this also include things like love languages and attachment styles?
Yeah, exactly. Like your contribution to feminine energy is just one of the ingredients, right? Like what other ingredients do you need to have a powerful connection with men? You need to know your love languages and what his are, so you two can connect on that level. So of the 5 love languages, are you aware of what yours are? And do you know what his is? Because I think a major problem or a major mistake women make is they assume that their man's love languages are the same as theirs, right? They project their own love languages, their own values onto the men that they're looking to get to know. And then they get disappointed or they get upset when the man doesn't give them back what they want. But it's because they haven't taken the time to really look at what ingredients am I bringing into this situation and what ingredients is he bringing in. Right?
And men can do this too, right? It goes both ways. So if your love language, I love everyone's learning how to make jelly donuts. Love all the emojis, you guys. This is like so much fun. So like my love language primary is probably physical touch, right? And so I can see where in like past relationships where be like, that certainly wasn't like his, and I'm like, well, what's wrong? What's happening here? He must not love me. He must not be into this. When obviously, you know, men and women too, we all have different ways that we give and receive love, and it's usually, you know, we usually tend to give love the same way we like to receive it, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And so it's really important for us to, know how we like to give and receive love. And for most men, I would say almost all men have physical touch as one of their top 2 love languages. And the top 2 are really the most important to know, like what are his top 2 and what are your top 2? And almost every man I know has physical touch as one of their top 2.
It's funny that I would seem to attract the ones that didn't have that. So then I would feel unloved, right? Of course.
Of course.
Right. So and so do you want to go over the love languages? Are you guys familiar with that? Do you want to hear about it, or should we save that for another video?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to just do a brief overview. There's 5. We got 5 primary love languages: physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, and gifts. So those are the 5 love languages. And hi, Lizette, how you doing, my dear? That's one of my clients and students just joining us. So you have 5 primary love languages, and of those 5, you're going to have 2 that are dominant. You're going to have 2 that are your primary ones, and then the other 3 are going to be secondary. And there's usually at least one that is like not at all anything to do with you, right? Which I find that with a lot of people, it's gifts. For a lot of people, for a lot of people, it's like,
about that.
Who cares about gifts, right? It's like not a thing. But for men particularly, since this is about understanding what men need, every man I've ever known, including myself, has physical touch as a primary love language. So you need to recognize if physical touch isn't one of your primary love languages, it doesn't mean that the man that you're looking to get to know isn't right for you. It just means that you're going to need to get used to and accustomed to communicating with him in a language that isn't familiar to you, you know? So like, because you're not going to by nature understand it because it's not something that you need, you know what I'm saying? So I know for some of my clients, like I've really had to help them understand that, you know, your primary love language as a woman might be words of affirmation. You love to be verbally, you know, communicated and honored and acknowledged like that. But the guy doesn't care. He just wants you to pet him. And so for you, that might not make sense, but it doesn't need to make sense, right? So that's what's important. Like, it doesn't need to make sense. You just need to understand and recognize that that's what he needs and then give him what he needs. Otherwise, the recipe's never going to come together.
Totally. You know? By the way, go watch Matt's video on my channel. It's the #2 video on my channel. It's got over 200,000 views right now on how to touch a man. I knew that was going to just skyrocket and be one of the top videos on my channel very quickly because it's something that he goes very in depth on that video, and it's awesome. So everyone go check that out. Let us know your love language too. Type it into the chat, or if you're watching the replay of this, down below in the comments. And we would love to hear from you. We love connecting with you guys. And also attachment styles go into this first thing that a man needs, right?
Anything you want to say about that? That's one of those other fundamental ingredients that we need to recognize and be aware of. A lot of this comes down to self-awareness, right? We need to recognize what our attachment style is. And there's 3 primary attachment styles, right? Anxious, avoidant, and secure. Okay. And no attachment style is right or wrong.
Mhm.
That's super important to
Yeah.
recognize. So I know a lot of people might say, oh, well, I'm anxious, so that means I'm somehow, weak or whatever. No, actually, many people are out there anxious. It's like
Totally,
20,
yeah.
it's something between 20 to 25% of all humans are anxious attachment style, and then 20 to 25% are avoidant, and then 50% are secure.
Yeah.
So
I don't like to pathologize it like something's wrong. I have a lot of videos on attachment style you guys can check out.
Yeah. And just release all your judgment around whatever.
Yeah.
And if you don't know your attachment style, there's a lot of great tests out there to sort of like go online and you can Google it and you can find a million different types of tests to do it. But know what your attachment style is. And if you are an anxious attachment style person, which, a lot of us out there and a lot of women are, there's nothing wrong with that. You just get to be in ownership of that. And you get to look at your partner, look at the man you're looking to get to know, and ask really, what is his attachment style? Is he a fellow anxious attachment style person? Because if those are the two ingredients that y'all are bringing to the container and you're both anxious, it's going to be really important for you to do a lot of affirmation and a lot of securing conversation between the two of you. Because when you're anxious attachment style, every little thing that your partner does, you make an inference that it means they're about to run.
Yeah.
Right. It means that they're, oh my God, they're about to leave. They're going to leave. Like every little detail, because you're hypersensitive as an anxious attachment style person to the little behaviors of your partner. Can any of y'all relate to that? It's like, oh, well, he hesitated an extra 2 seconds before saying, I love you back. Therefore, he must be cheating on me. Literally, like that's what, because so that's the inference that they make. So it's going to be very important if you two are both anxious that you're constantly, like resecuring each other in the relationship.
Yeah.
And also another thing that anxious style people have a tendency to do is be bored and not feel chemistry with secure attachment style people.
Yeah, and they also tend to attract avoidant. Anyone ever?
And they attract avoidant, which
Yeah.
that's the whole, and that brings us into the whole anxious avoidant trap, which is a pattern that anxious and avoidant people, where they kind of magnetize to each other, because anxious people are constantly like afraid of abandonment, and avoidant attachment style people feel that attachment robs them of their independence. So it's like one side is afraid of being left and the other side is afraid of getting attached, but they end up attracting each other, and then they confuse triggering each other and activating each other's attachment style with being in passionate love. So it becomes this dysfunctional paradigm where the avoidant person will allow the anxious person to get close and then push him away, and allow him to get close and then push him away. And the avoidant and the anxious person gets off on it in a weird way. Like they get off on the emotional.
I was just going to say, the intense highs and lows. Anyone ever been there? I think we all have, right?
Just the one, if you can relate to that.
It's like, it can stir up feelings that might feel like love to us, right? Because it's right in line with maybe what love felt like to us earlier in life, depending on what your parents and caretakers were like. So yes, those intense, obsessive, often feelings do not equal true love. The feelings in and of themselves that can get stirred up in the anxious avoidant, right?
It's not chemistry, y'all. It's y'all it's y'all triggering each other. Okay, so it may be exciting because it's an emotionally elevated state, but it is not love. And just to FYI, in Mastery of Connection, the beta course that I'm offering to Helena's community for free, link is in the caption. We dig into attachment style. I have an awesome attachment style test that I've created that, we break down the whole attachment style thing in my course. So, check that out.
By the way, in the Facebook group that he has for this course and the testimonials, I've seen people like, it changed my life and there's no going back. It built me up into this person who I am like a completely different person. And it's not a quick fix. It basically, I don't want to say breaks you down in a negative way, but it builds you up into this whole complete person. So then you can attract a healthy relationship. That's the feedback I got from it.
Yeah, it was incredible to hear the feedback from Helena's community, because we go through your beliefs, we go through your attachment style, we go through your love languages, and then we go through creating, what your values are, what your vision is for your life, how you connect with other people. I mean, it really lays the foundation for you to have an incredible, powerful relationship, and I'm really excited to offer it to y'all again.
Totally free, you guys, totally free. It's not just free to apply, it's a free to join the course as a beta tester. So amazing. Everyone go check that out. Links in the description. All right, so that brings us to the second thing a man needs to feel to fall in love and commit. What is that?
So think about it. So you got all your ingredients, right? You've thrown them into the pot. I'm going to beat this bread analogy to death. All right. So Once you get all the ingredients, what do you have to do? You have to mix it up, right? So just like with bread, you would have to mix the ingredients in the right way. With a man, you have to mix it up for him, because you got to remember, men are pattern-driven, linear beings. We are constantly looking to just, we fall into habit really quickly. We go into autopilot really quickly, and you do not want your relationship or your connection with a man to go into autopilot, to go into Netflix and chill mode, to go into, you want to be that sort of disrupting, interruptive force, because men are at a deeper level. The masculine is looking to be set free by the feminine. We don't want to fall into pattern. We just are wired to do that. And so one of the most powerful ways that you can activate a man and really help him fall into love with you is to be this spontaneous, emotional, dynamic force in his life, right? Like just keep throwing him curveballs, asking him to go on adventures, inviting him forward, and inviting him out of the patterns in which he lives his life. It's one of the most, and that's how you mix it up with him and communicate with him in a deeper way. Like ask yourself, what are the quality of the questions you're asking him? Have you fallen into the habit of just doing the daily report with him? Oh, what did you do today? What did you do today? No one cares. Don't fall into that pattern. Like ask him, like, what are you excited about right now? The quality of your questions determines the depth of your relationship. Right. So like be willing to go deep. If you just mix a bowl and you just mix the top inch of the stuff in the bowl, you're not going to get the right consistency, So really like be willing to go deep, be willing to interrupt the flow, and just like mix things up with him in order to generate and maintain that attraction, because you want to get below the surface.
Totally. And I'm loving your questions. You guys, every time I'm looking over here, I'm checking out the questions and the stats and everything. So we will definitely get to those at the end. Keep typing them in because we love answering questions. I know something you talk about a lot is holding your frame and not collapsing into his frame. And that's something totally different that I don't talk much about at all. So does that fit into this one?
100%. Yeah. And so that's another powerful way that you mix it up with a man, because like you got to, whenever you come into a relationship, whenever you come into the relational container, I want you to think about the fact that you have a frame and he has a frame. Your frame is your understanding of who you are, what you're worth, what your values are, what your interests are, right? And so you have a frame that you bring into relationship with a man, right? And he has his. And a lot of times the mistake that women make is they'll collapse their frame into a man's frame. So like say he's into baseball and you think baseball is ridiculous. Instead of you being willing to sort of like call him out and tease him on that, you'll be like, oh, baseball is really cool. You'll just sort of like collapse your interests and your needs and your desires into him. And men don't want that. That doesn't create a high value situation for men, and that doesn't stimulate men. Men really do want a challenge. They want an interruption. They want a disruption to their life, right? So one of the greatest ways that you can create high value with him and engage with him deeper is to hold your frame. If something that he's into is something that you think is ridiculous, it will turn him on if you say, so what is it about so you like baseball? What is it about baseball that you like? The fact that they scratch their crotch once every 30 seconds, or the fact that they just stand around 98% of the time? Like you calling him out on that and sassing him, like that is super sexy. To men, and it disrupts them because they're like, oh wow, she's willing to take me on this. Right. And so that's one of those ways that you're mixing it up with him. You're not just, because a guy gets bored. He'll get bored. And
just like we would, right? If a guy was just kind of not that we're not calling him spineless here, but if a guy was just like, okay, yeah, whatever, like, oh, you're into that, I'm into that too. And there's no mixing it up. So I love that. And also this would be where going deeper and truly connecting would fall into this third one, right?
100%. Yeah. Like just get things below the surface. Like the daily report is a cancer to relationships, and so being willing to really ask somebody, like, so what are you afraid of? Like let's say you're watching a TV show and it's like Naked and Afraid, and you just look over at your partner and you're like, so have you ever felt naked and afraid? Like what's an experience you had like that? Like tee a guy up and give him an opportunity to tell you a story, because men are fundamentally, we're storytellers. We love to tell stories. We love to, be able to dive in and show you a deeper side of ourselves if you demonstrate that you're interested, right? Because men want to feel that you're curious about them and that you want to know more about them, right? If you're curious about them, it's going to evoke and inspire them to be more curious about you.
Mhm,
And then that's how, you know, if you ask him a deep question, I guarantee you it's going to inspire and evoke him to ask you a deeper question.
Yeah.
And that's how the relationship goes down the rabbit hole. And before you know it, you're talking about aliens in the Illuminati and, you know, your craziest childhood experiences, and things have got really weird, which is super attractive. And that's how you create a deeper bond with a man, and you mix things up at a deeper level.
Love it. Love it. I saw a great question from Tris related to this. She says, is frame collapsing a mark of feminine submissiveness?
And not like the empowered submissiveness that I talk about as being really positive. Like there's an empowered submission that's very hot, right? In giving a man, you know, that authority. This is not that. This is a disempowered, insecure submissiveness. Because so basically a woman is saying, I don't feel confident enough in my frame, so I'm just going to collapse into his because I'm afraid if I hold my frame, he's going to leave.
Love it. And, I have a video coming out on the difference between submission versus surrender. And it's totally groundbreaking, amazing. And stay tuned for that. It's going to be awesome. So yeah, this isn't surrender would be more of where I would go rather than
I just did a video on that like 2 weeks ago. Oh, so
awesome.
funny.
Love it. Awesome. Okay. Anything else you want to say on number 3?
I think that's mixing it up. That's what mixing it up is all about. Going deeper, interrupting the autopilot, and stirring things up in a way that sets a man free, knocks him out of autopilot, and gets him to go deeper with you. So remember, so you got the ingredients, now you've mixed them up, and now what's the next step?
And yes, love all these other questions too. We will definitely get to them at the end. That one fit perfectly right in there. So yes. Number 4.
Have you ever, we're at number 3.
Number 3. Oh, I thought we were moving on to number 4.
Once you got the dough, what's the next step, Helena? Have you ever made bread?
No, I haven't.
What? You never made bread?
I have bread in my freezer.
You didn't bake this bread from Hart? What?
Someone brought over. You got to bring your own bread.
Yeah.
BYOB if you're coming over. Bring your own bread, okay?
BYOB.
You and Mike Goldstein, when he came over last week to do a live stream, he goes, coming to Helena's place is BYOE. Bring your own everything.
It's basic. This is literally like a bachelor pad for women. It's
totally
so funny. Like all there is in here is a giant makeup case and a TV, and that's it.
I get my food on the outside, right? Everything comes from the outside.
Yeah.
I would imagine, and I might have the order mixed up, so tell me if I'm wrong, that it needs the space to rise.
No, not yet.
Okay.
No, once you have the dough, what do you have to do? You have to put it in the oven and you have to heat it up.
Oh,
you got to bake it.
Yes,
you got to bake it.
Yes, very
And so
important.
what do you need to bake? You got to bring the heat.
Yes.
You got to bring the heat. And this is something that's so important for women to recognize, is that if you want to foster a deep and powerful connection with a man, you need to bring the heat. You need to bring the passion into your connection with him. And I'm not just talking about sex, although I am definitely talking about sex. I'm definitely talking about sex, but I'm also just talking about in your connection with him, in your communication with him, in the way that you touch him. You need to make a man feel that you really want to do that.
Yes.
That is the secret sauce. Yes. A man honestly cares a lot less about how you touch him and how you make love to him as much as what turns a man on more than that, the technique of anything, is really feeling that you want to do it. You know, that you want to make him happy. Like, and I'll be probably very graphic with you. The difference, but men would much rather get a blowjob from a woman who's less experienced, but is really excited about doing it, than from a woman who's really good at it, but is sort of like checked out the whole time and just doing it for the sake of doing it. The energy behind whatever physical expression you're doing with a man is so much more attractive to him, especially if he likes you, than the physical proficiency of what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, I was going to say same with us, right? I mean, if you want a guy who's like really into it and they're just like touching you and looking in your eyes versus a guy who's just kind of going through the motions, like I would love to do a video on what men consider great sex for my channel. If you were not to put you on the spot.
Down.
Yes. Okay. I've been meaning to ask you that, or someone. I think you'd be the perfect person to do a video on that with.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really your presence and your own pleasure that you're deriving from it, not just some technique that you apply. Feel the difference there. One is almost like a masculine energy. I'm going to do these things to try to please a man, versus I'm going to go deep within myself and experience my own pleasure from this because it feels good to me, right? Very, very different way of going about it. So yes, it needs heat and the passion, right?
The heat, the passion, right? And the presence is exactly the word I was going to use. And I'm glad you used that, because that's one of the greatest way to like communicate passion to a man is by being super present with him. Eye contact, right? Like while you're touching him, while you're making love to him, while you're just in connection with him and talking. Like you want a man to ask for your number and you're in casual conversation with him, make eye contact with him. I have given my number to women who I thought were totally out of my league because they communicated to me that they were interested because they made a lot of eye contact. It's one of the most powerful ways to do it, right? So presence and connection in whatever sort of expression you're in with a man is going to turn him on, and it's going to really help take the thing to a deeper level.
Yeah, we did a video, I think it was the last video we did together on, what was it? How to make a man want you without saying a word, about body language and eye contact. I think was a big part of that one. So yes.
Huge.
Go check that one out too. I think I should, all the videos we've done together, I should put on a playlist or something, because
we should.
Everyone loves them, just loves them. And I love it. And yeah, Matt answers all your questions too. So if you guys are watching the replay of this, let us know your questions and comments down below in the comment section. We love hearing from you. Does that bring us to the next one?
Now the one, which this one is super important. We're almost to number 5, which is the most important one. But number 4 is super important as well. It's that once you got bread in the oven, right, and it's getting that heat and all the ingredients have been mixed up right, one of the most important thing is that bread needs space to rise. And just as a loaf of bread needs space to rise up out of the pan and fully become bread, like this magnificent piece of gluten-free bread here, a man needs space to rise into his masculine power. And a lot of women, this is a big pitfall I think that a lot of women fall into, especially women that may have anxious attachment style, where they feel that in order to make a man like them, they need to stay
totally. I think we've all been there, right? I mean, I have so many videos on feminine energy, creating space for a man to come towards you. I think a lot of people who are women, especially who are drawn to this work and to some of my videos and programs, have this feeling of like, oh, I want to like jump in there and fill in that space. Like we've all been there, right? Like we've all been there.
100%. And it's really important that, you know, so that when you're dating a man, be super present, make him feel the heat when you are together, be present, be connected, be into him, be asking questions, let things go deeper, but then give him space. Give him space to really like connect with you, give him space to do his own thing, you know? And if he's in pursuit, this is another great way to do that. If he is in pursuit of his vision, if he's got a huge purpose in his life, don't feel threatened by that. Don't feel threatened by this man's pursuit of what it is that he's committed to in the world. When a woman is insecure about a man's vision and a man's purpose, and he feels, you know, like, okay, well, she's trying to get between me, and she's trying to get between me and what it is that I'm trying to create, that's gonna make him check out. That's gonna make him pull away from her, right? So there's no quicker way to push a man away from you than to sort of squash him down and not give him the space to rise into his power. Like you want a man who's fully in his masculine, correct?
Totally. Yeah. And if a man, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is from a man's perspective, when a man feels like I can be more on my path, I can commit to more of my purpose, having this woman by my side, that's when you just become like irreplaceable, right? Like
that's when you inspire loyalty in a man. And it's funny. It's a video I recorded last night that I'm going to release. Is the most powerful role that you can play in the life of a man you're in a relationship with is that of a cheerleader and an emotional support and an emotional sanctuary. Because I mean, we're out there in the world, especially if you're, you know, a man who's actively seeking self-actualization, actually seeking their highest purpose in life, they're out there in the world failing and getting their butt kicked and dealing with a lot of stuff out there in the world. And to have a woman who doesn't try to stand between them in that pursuit, but cheerleads them and supports them unconditionally and is in their corner, I mean, that's how you make a man like fully rise into his masculine with you and become like unconditionally committed and loyal to you. 100%.
I would say I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too. One way to give a man the space that he needs to rise. Love that. Everyone's loving the bread analogy, by the way. People are like doing like croissant emojis. Like what about donuts, croissants? This is
any kind of pastry, any kind of yeast-based pastry.
So I think committing to your own purpose, right, is a way to create the space naturally and automatically create the space for a man to step up and come towards you, right?
Oh, and that's such a beautiful and attractive thing for a man to recognize, is to recognize that, because here's the thing, one of the biggest pitfalls women have is making a man feel like their happiness is his responsibility. If a man feels the weight of a woman, you know, making her happiness his job, then he's going to start seeing her as a job. He's going to start seeing her as, you know, just another obligation in his life. And you never want to be perceived as work in a man's life. Like you want to be this freeing, dynamic, powerful, beautiful force in his life. And the only way to do that is by truly like pursuing your own purpose, having your own life, and then connecting with him in an aligned, interdependent way. It's the difference between interdependence and codependence.
Yeah, that just naturally and automatically creates or recreates attraction with a man, right? I always talk about taking your focus off of a man, putting it on yourself, and a man's naturally going to want to come in if he's the right man for you, right?
100%. He's going to come in, and when a man and a woman, when the masculine and the feminine are both in full ownership of their energy and of their power and of who they are and what they want in the world, like they're in ownership of their frame and they come together, there's a natural sort of synergy that's created between them. You know, it isn't forced, and it flows in a really magical way. You know, but for that to happen, you got to get out of your own way.
Yes,
and you can't let your fear, you know, and your insecurity sort of like get in the center of it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. Which I think is the perfect segue to number 5, which is absolutely crucial. This is where we see most women having a hard time with this. And again, we've all been there. Anything else you want to say before moving on to number 5?
I think that we'll think about what we've done so far. We've got all the right ingredients in the right proportions. We've mixed them thoroughly. We've given them the heat and the passion they needed to rise, right? So now a man has risen and he's in his full masculine power. And so he is that complete loaf, that loaf of bread. And so think about a loaf of bread. A loaf of bread has a crust. So just like a loaf of bread, men are going to be hard on the outside generally and very soft and warm within. And that's a really important thing to understand, is that men fundamentally at our core, we have so much love. We have so much heart. Like and a lot of times we feel so isolated because we have had to develop this hard crust, this hard outer layer, these walls around our heart, around our emotions, around our vulnerability, because we were conditioned by our parents, by society, by culture to believe that emotional vulnerability is weakness, that it's a liability, that we'll never be successful. And a lot of times out in the world, you know, if you're over emotional at work, it can be a liability. It can be dangerous, right? So we've a lot of times got this hard outer shell around our hearts. It does not mean that we are not capable of profound love and profound vulnerability, but it's going to be up to you to recognize that it might take a little while. It might take a little while for a man to really like step out from under his walls, right? And show you his heart. So don't take personally if a man has a hard time being vulnerable with you. Don't take that personally, because it will take time. It's going to take time. So play the long game with a man that you want to get to know. Take the time to do that, because like it's not an overnight process. Think about it, a man you've been dating, a man you've been getting to know, he's got 20, 30, 40 years of walling off his emotions when it comes to women. Maybe he's been hurt by women in his life, and you show up into his life. He may truly want to love you in a deep level and just not be able to right away. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So number 5 is really the patience about a man's own resistance to his own vulnerability. Do I have that right? Did I say that correctly? Yeah.
You got to have patience with a man, because he's been walled off from his feelings for so long that it's going to take him some time, and it's going to take you really doing all these previous steps in order to, you know, for a while, in order for him to drop his walls and really open up his heart to you. So I think one of the biggest mistakes women make, and tell me if I'm right or wrong, Helena, is they take it personally. Right? When a man can't just immediately, like a woman opens her heart to him and she expects him to be able to do it just as fast.
It's hard not to. I mean, it's hard not to, especially if you have a strong connection with a man. There can be, I've certainly found a lot of extra pain. Like something happens, he's like maybe a little abrupt with you, or he doesn't kind of do what you hoped he would. And it's painful, right? It's kind of like, it's just like, it feels like lifetimes of pain often, depending on how connected you are to him. When he can't go there with you. Something else I always say is I'm trying to think of how to word this correctly. a lot of times we are deeper than men in a lot of ways, or where we have more flexibility and emotional agency. We are more conscious than them when it comes to this stuff. So we're connected to ourselves and to others and the universe, however you want to put that, in a way that men often can only get connected to through us, right? So we have to go first a lot of times with the vulnerability and opening up. And that doesn't necessarily mean just spilling your guts and talking about how you feel about him in the relationship, right? But I think a lot of times when a man sees that you feel safe with yourself and you're safe with your own feelings and the parts of yourself that you don't necessarily want to show to others, that's when he goes, oh, she loves herself. She accepts herself and all of her feelings and parts of herself. That's how I know that she's going to accept me and not judge me for my vulnerability. That's been my experience. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, and I agree 1000% on that. I mean, something I coach all my girls through, all my women through, and that I talk about in my courses like Mastery of Connection is, that you are the conductor. You get to, through your example of vulnerability, through your example of connecting with your heart, through your example of showing a man how to express his feelings, right? You're giving a man permission to do that. You're showing him how to do that. And you're making an invitation for him to meet you there, because he oftentimes has not been doing that in his life. He doesn't have the emotional agency, and he might really want to, but just not know how.
Right.
And so one of the most powerful ways that you can, have a man become vulnerable is by being vulnerable yourself, setting that example. And then, you're not trying to force a man to do it, but you're making a sort of, an indirect invitation by being like, I feel this way and I feel that way. And my best relationships have come about when I've been with women who have been very connected with their hearts and their feelings. And as they express that to me, I meet them there, and it just happens naturally. Yeah. It's not a forced thing.
I'm not going to do this to try to pull this out of a man, right? If you're coming from that place, you're in a results-oriented masculine energy place. But the other way to go about it was, I'm going to open up and be vulnerable because this is who I am, right? I am a warm, open, feminine woman. And that's when a man really feels safe to come towards you if he's the right man for you.
100%.
Right?
Exactly. And that's really what this all boils down to, is just, that if you can lead by example, what it means to be connected to your heart, what it means to operate from an emotional space, you're going to be the conductor, inviting that man to really join you in that space. So that's really, and so if you can do all these steps, these steps that we talked about, bring the right ingredients into the relationship, and then mix them all up in a powerful way by the way you show up, by knowing his love languages, by connecting with him at a deeper level and having deeper conversations with him, then give him the heat and the passion, right, of how you're showing up to him energetically and by being present. And then you give him space to rise up and meet you out there, right? He's going to become a man and he's going to become in relationship with you in a powerful and magnetic way, right? And then you just get to be patient with him dropping his walls with you, because he will have that sort of hard outer shell that you're gonna get to work through by leading by example.
Yeah. And there's a whole other side of this, maybe topic for another video, but while holding your own standards, right? It's not about just wait. I've been getting a lot of questions lately from women like, so do I just wait around for a guy for, I've been waiting for this guy for 2 years and he hasn't introduced me to his friends and family. And it's obviously you need to listen to yourself and your intuition. And I would never suggest just waiting for a man who's not doing anything or taking the relationship anywhere, right? So it's not about just being all about him and his needs. I always want to just mention that. I know you guys all know that, but sometimes people come on who aren't familiar with that. We talk about this other side of it too, about well, what about your needs? You have needs too, and you want to acknowledge those. So maybe we could do another video about that.
I would love that. Discernment is so important, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I've just been scrolling through these questions this whole time, and do you want to recap these 5 while I scroll up to the top and find some questions?
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add too? This is great.
100%. So ladies, just recognize as you're getting to know a man that it is going to be a process. There is a process that you get to go through with him if you want to evoke him and invite him to open up and drop in with you. And so much of it comes down to awareness of who you are, awareness of how you connect, and knowing where he's at and meeting him there. Don't project, how you connect and how you love onto him. Right? Like he's going to be we're different. We're the same, but we're different, right? But we want the same things. We want to be loved. We want to be heard. We want to feel safe. We want to feel expected and appreciated. And if you can really just recognize the similarities and differences between yourself and the man that you want to know and meet him there and be that feminine cheerleader and an inviting, evoking force in his life, you're going to be able to build that trust, build that connection, and really set him free, which is at the foundation of how you're going to build the relationship that you want.
Yeah, totally agree.
Fundamentally.
Totally agree. Awesome. All right. Can we get some questions here?
I'd love some questions. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So let's see. First one, scroll all the way back to the top. So many of you guys watching. I'm so happy to have all of you here. This is so fun. What if a woman is not working? Should she still date?
If a woman isn't working, well, it depends, I think, on the state of mind and emotional state that comes along with that. If a woman is not working and she's in a fearful survival mode, which I know a lot of times when women are in fear, they tend to have their walls up and they tend to be in a more masculine space. You want to be careful about getting out there and dating if you're in complete breakdown. Because if you're in complete breakdown and that's the energy you're bringing out into the dating space, you're going to have a tendency to source men and source relational dynamics that are going to be codependent or are going to be kind of toxic.
Right.
So but if you're not working and it's not a survival mode, scramble mode situation, get out there and date, right? Like the energy that you're bringing into the space and the mindset that you're bringing into it is much more important than, your employment status.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, from my language, it would, if you're coming from a wounded feminine place of I'm not going to get my own empowered energies and gear for myself. I'm just going to kind of wait for a man to come along and save me from my own life. Yeah, you're in danger of attracting a man in his wounded masculines, which would potentially be like a controlling kind of man. Obviously not the kind of dynamic we want you to get into. So just everything depends on where you're coming from.
Exactly.
Question now.
Exactly.
Let's see. I've been seeing this guy for about 6 months consistently. He says he's now ready to actually get to know me. Do I sit back and see where it goes? I feel like after 6 months, he should have a good idea.
I would, in that situation, rather than sit back and see where it goes, right? I would ask a follow-up question and really explore with him, what does it mean to get to know me? Like, because maybe the meaning he has behind those words is different from your understanding of those words. So maybe that means he wants to explore being in a more serious relationship. It doesn't mean that he doesn't know who you are. He might know you very well, but that might just be a code term, right, for wanting to be in a relationship with you. So I don't know if you've asked him this, but really ask him, from a space of curiosity,
right?
It's important the energy that you bring to this question too, right? Because like, well, what do you mean by that? If you come with like a pushing masculine energy and be like, well, where is this going? What do you mean by that? Then that might cause him to pull back, especially if it took 6 months to get to this point. It sounds like he might be a guy that has got some resistance around commitment in the first place, but ask him from a curious, loving, warm space. Oh, well, what do you mean by getting to know me? Like, what does that mean to you? And just let him put words on it in a safe container. That'll make a big difference. So great.
Yeah. I mean, this might be a total compliment to you, but it can be hard. Maybe you're not taking it that way. So you just want to get clear on what he means by that. Always feel free to ask for clarification. I think it's an important thing. Okay. Divine says, when do we know when we have outgrown places as we heal? Oh, I saw that question earlier. Such a good one. Any initial thoughts there?
Outgrown places as we heal. I mean, I think a lot of times you'll recognize patterns. Like you'll recognize a pattern of the type of person that you used to be attracted to, places where you used to feel comfortable, now feel uncomfortable. Like the sort of I know for myself, right? I used to have a dynamic where I was drawn to, because I was deeply insecure, I was drawn to very damaged women who were very, very, very wounded, and I was there to save them. I was Captain Save-A-Ho, which is not a good role to be in, but it was because I needed that validation of somebody who really needed me, and as I stepped into my own, self-worth, and I did the inner work that was so important to my own process, I stopped being attracted to those women, and I stopped drawing those women into my life. And when I would draw them in, because just because you outgrow them doesn't mean they don't still pop up. That's an important thing to just because you outgrow a pattern, like the universe keeps testing you. They'll be like, are you sure you've outgrown it? Right? You might get that pattern, but I wasn't attracted to them the same way. I was like, woo, and so you'll get a gut feeling.
You'll feel it right away. If you, from my language again, if you change what feels familiar to you by, like what you say, growing, and outgrowing places maybe that we don't necessarily want to be anymore.
Mm-hmm.
When let's say like for my I'm trying to think of a pattern that I went through, the emotionally unavailable man about 10 years ago is what was definitely what I was attracted to and attracting. When I changed what feels familiar, meaning from this point forward, for those of you going through this right now, you are only going to spend time with a man if his energy is coming towards you and he's 100% available for the kind of relationship you want. Once you do that for a little while, it doesn't take that long. Also doing the inner work, very important, working from the inside out and the outside in. One of those unavailable men might come back around is what tends to happen, or you might attract another guy who would fall back into that old pattern, and you're gonna feel it right away. You're
Absolutely.
Like, this is not what feels familiar.
It's no longer the language I use a lot of times is it's no longer in alignment. It's not in alignment with who you now know yourself to be. Right. And a big part of Mastery of Connection, which is that free course that I'm launching again next month for the community. There's a link in the caption to sign up for that for free for all y'all in Helena's community. A big portion of the beginning of that course is all around beliefs and around understanding what your beliefs are around relationship. What are you holding on to about the type of relationship that you're worthy of? And what would it look like to adopt a new belief? And once you switch your beliefs, once you commit to changing your beliefs around the type of a relationship that you're worthy of, and that old type of relationship that's connected to your old beliefs comes back into your life, it feels totally different. It don't taste nearly as good. It tastes like stale bread. Stale bread.
That's been in my freezer for 6 months. I was laughing because I shouldn't even say this out loud. Somebody sent me this meme. Do you guys like memes? I don't know. I mean, my friends,
huge
it was something like sometimes God sends an ex back into your life to see if you're still stupid. Some of these comments were reminding me of that. I probably shouldn't have said that, but I thought that was really funny. But yeah, like you said, people come back around. I mean, who hasn't been there, right? And if you've truly healed, Divine and everybody in this situation, if you've truly changed, you're not even going to be attracted to them anymore, And in my last live stream with Mike Goldstein, I shared my own story of my own horrific, most painful breakup we both did that we've ever experienced. And it was how to know when to move on from a relationship. We've all been there, right? Of course, the guy 100%. Wants you back and is probably always going to want you back. But if you've truly healed and they haven't, it's like you're on two very different wavelengths when it comes to relationships.
Yeah. And one way you can know that you've healed is that once you reach a new level and you step out of maybe a wounded space where you're attracted to a certain level of guys, as soon as you hit that new space, all those exes that are in that old space come out of the woodwork. Isn't it? Like I've had clients tell me like, well, I don't know what the hell happened, but all my old exes are coming out of the woodwork now that I feel so good about myself. And it's because you've magnetically elevated into a new space.
99.9% of the time. And like that always happens with clients. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you that's going to happen.
It's a side effect.
All the guys
side
are going to
effect
come
of transformation.
Yes, so funny. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm with a guy for 2 years. I feel everything goes well for 4 to 5 days. Then he seems very disinterested over the call and gets sleepy, starts yawning at some level. I find it very disrespectful. Then he becomes normal and loving again the next day. Is this behavior normal? Is it due to stress or something to worry about?
Well, I mean, it sounds like if he's being awesome 5 or 6 days a week and then he's sort of crashing out on a 7th day, then you've got a relationship that's for the most part going pretty great. Yeah. So that's the first thing to do is be grateful that that there are 5 or 6 days a week that he is being really loving and connected. And if that's his normal mode of operating and he's just crashing out one day, that sounds to me like a stress or exhaustion issue, or maybe he just reaches a point where like every person has a different capacity for intimacy and a different capacity for showing up for another person. And his capacity might just be a little different than yours.
Right.
So
if you're like this, you can tolerate this much closeness and he can tolerate this much. When he comes in, it's just like a little, then you might feel him pull back a little bit. Very common thing. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the relationship.
I wouldn't. And then so often what women do is a man will just be tapped out and he'll just want to just watch TV for a night, or he won't want to talk about a problem or something. And a woman will be like, oh my God, he doesn't love me. Oh my God, he's checking out from the relationship. They make up a lot of narratives, a lot of stories around that. And I invite you that instead of creating a story around it, like having a conversation, but not from the perspective of taking it personally. Like start off first off by recognizing this is not about you, right? This is about something going on with him, and then asking him in a safe and loving way, right? I noticed that 5-6 days a week, you're all in, right?
Mhm.
And then on the 7th day, you kind of crash out on me a little bit, you know, and I'm just wondering, like, where is that coming from? Like, how can I support you with that?
Mhm.
You know, and come from a place of support and partnership, especially in a 2-year relationship. Like, you've been with this guy long enough that you guys should be able to have, like, you know, a grounded, loving conversation around this, and maybe find a way where maybe on that 7th day, he just sort of takes some space. Maybe he needs some space to rise, like we just talked about, you know?
Yes, love it. That was amazing. I couldn't have said anything. I have nothing to add to that. Tracy asked, what if the man has codependent issues?
If a man has codependent issues, as in he's maybe the more anxious attachment style partner,
Sounds like maybe that.
which it absolutely does happen, right? So it's going to be important for you two to get to the sort of the root of like what his fear is, like, and where that's based from. A lot of times men with codependency issues have been really hurt in past relationships. They've been cheated on, they've been dumped, they've probably got a pattern of that built up. And so again, he's taking every little whiff of what you're giving him and interpreting as it, oh my God, she's about to leave. You know, so it's going to be important for you, to hold space for him to share what that fear is and what it's based in, like whatever trauma he's experienced, and to do it from a space of non-judgment. So like holding space, and I have a video on Helena's channel and also a video on my channel around holding space, because it's important to be able to actively listen to a man when he, especially if he's got a pattern of fear around intimacy or whatever, and then really reinforcing to him, if he is kind of codependent around you, that, you know, you love him, you care about him, you're not going anywhere, but it's important for the sake of the relationship that he gives you the space to do your own thing and be your own man, and that you're going to love him more, and you're going to be more available and more connected to him if he gives you the space that you need. So it's like those two components are going to be really important.
I love it. Yeah, JC asked, how does this translate to a long and troubled marriage? That could actually be one example of it. Depends on what's going on. I would say definitely translates to relationships, right? You gotta know what's going on with you. You have to know. I mean,
it's all exactly what we were just talking about, right? Like, so the biggest part of being in a successful relationship is being aware of who you are and where you're at, and then being aware of where your partner is and who they are and how you communicate and connect with each other. So if you're in a long and troubled marriage, chances are it's all because there's a foundational disconnection at some level of the relationship that's never been resolved, in terms of how you connect with each other, or the wounds that one or both of you have. And really the answer to this is, it's always the same. It's always communication. It's always communication, and really evaluating, can you work through this together? Because a relationship can be in a profound container for healing. Yeah, it can be. If both partners are willing to come to the table openly and honestly and directly with their stuff. You know, because everybody's got stuff in relationship, right?
I'm thinking about my own stuff. Like, yeah, definitely. Join Matt's course, totally free. And this is not just like a quick ebook and audio. Like, this is a full-on course.
A month-long awesome course, Mastery of Connection. There's a link in the caption to sign up, and it's going to be an incredible transformational experience that's going to help you connect better with yourself and with the men in your life. Right? We had 1,000 people come through it from Helena's community before, and I mean the testimonials and the feedback I got was overwhelming.
I mean, just for me, seeing them too is like amazing. Yes, and totally free. The whole thing's totally free for you guys. So I would love offering stuff like that. Okay, somebody asked what to do when you feel like he's bored. Would leaning back work in this situation?
It can. I always am a little like, you want to be careful with leaning back. If a guy's already bored, if he's bored, that means he's pulling back. That means he's maybe getting a little disconnected. And if you respond to him pulling back and him kind of disconnecting by pulling back and disconnecting, then the whole thing just kind of like starts. It can be a domino effect that you don't want, right? Like, so if a man is seeming bored, I think that, you know, like I said, what does it mean to mix it up? What does it mean to bring the heat? Chances are those two middle sections, the part where you're mixing it up with him and the part where you're bringing that passion and heat, something's missing there in the recipe, right? So are you connected to him passionately, you know, in the way that you two are connecting physically? Are you mixing it up with him? Are you asking him deep questions? Are you inviting him to spontaneously do things with you? You know, are you owning your frame? with him. Because one of the biggest ways a man gets bored is when he feels like a woman is just collapsing into his frame steadily and continuously and just submitting her interests and her needs and her desires into his. She thinks she's making him happy, but he's just like, oh my God, right? Just like, disagree with me, not fight with me, but, spar with me, like be sassy with me, like be willing to have a little bit of a debate with me over something, you know?
Totally. Yeah. And if you can do that in a way where you're not, he pulls back, you don't want to be lunging forward and trying to do stuff to get the connection back, right? Obviously not the right way to go about it. Of course. So go about it this way. Go through the beginning of this video, these five things a man needs. I think that will help you a lot. And of course, join the course. So you got to join the course. It's free for all of you guys. Okay, where did I leave off here? Oh, we love you too. Antoinette says she's also BYOE. I love that. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. How to ask an emotional, unavailable guy to go out with you. Oh, what an interesting question. Why do you want him to go out with you?
First off, First off, are you like shopping around for an anxious avoidant trap? Because I don't recommend it.
Probably you already feel attached to this guy. You're attracted to him. There's probably some level of connection, but he's emotionally unavailable.
Emotionally unavailable men are really good at sparking physical attraction.
Oh, that's so true.
Isn't it? The old bad boy complex, but so you got to be careful on do you want to be in a relationship with this guy just because he turns you on? And by turning you on, I mean, does he activate your attachment style? Because do you want to get into a relationship with an emotionally unavailable man? And if so, why? How is your relationship with your dad? That's always a foundational question I ask for women in these situations. Like, what was your dynamic with your father? Because so often women that are drawn to emotionally unavailable men, that was imprinted into them in childhood. They were constantly seeking the validation of a father who just wasn't present to them.
I would love to get my dad on here to do a live stream. My dad, you guys just found out that I have a YouTube channel like a couple days ago.
What? That's so funny. My mom checks my numbers like 3 times a day.
I'm like, I don't want you watching my videos. But anyway, he's an amazing he's an amazing speaker and loves an audience. He's also really funny and we would love to.
Sounds like
I would love to bring him on and talk about some of these dynamics because it's amazing how it translates. Okay, let's see. We love you too. Difference between surrender and submission. So interesting. Yeah, sounds like we both have videos coming out about that. Zari asks, have you read The Surrendered Wife by Laura Doyle? I have not read that. Have you read that?
I have not. I'll have to check it out.
Definitely. You're welcome, you guys. You're welcome.
Yay, she likes the bread analogy.
Yes, I love that. Okay, the guy I'm seeing says he doesn't like to be touched, but he loves touching.
So there you go. So that means that, because here's the thing, there are 2 areas that love languages are important. The one is the way that they express love. The other is how they receive love. And that's a really important distinction, that a way someone likes to express love isn't always the same as how they like to receive it. So just because he likes to touch you, he likes to express love through touch. That doesn't mean that that's how he likes to receive it. A lot of times it's the same. A lot of times the love language that you like to receive is the one that you like to express, but they're not always the same. So that's really interesting. So now it's learning okay, so touch isn't one of the love languages that he likes to receive. What are the love languages that he likes to receive? Is it words of affirmation? Is it acts of service? Is it quality time? Or is it gifts, It's just finding out. Look at that and ask yourself, what does he respond to when you connect and communicate with him?
Yeah, totally. Katie says she loves you, and the bread analogy is so good. Let's see. I'm so confused. I get so much attention from him, and he wants so much to please, but he doesn't want me getting emotionally attached. What's up with that? Yikes. What do you think about that?
That's an interesting situation, Bunny Bunday. I love your name. So he gives you a lot of attention, and he really wants to make you happy, but he's fearful of you getting attached to him. So it sounds like, he might be actually, there's a rare combination called anxious avoidant, where you can simultaneously be anxious attachment style and avoidant attachment style. So he might have a little bit of both of that, where he flips back and forth between the two. It's something like 1% of people are anxious avoidant. So that would be my bet, is that he's a little bit of both. And then that's going to be something you want to ask yourself, because that's a very tricky type of man, because he simultaneously wants you to get attached to him, but then at the same time, he's terrified of you getting attached to him. So basically, you're gonna have a hard time, being in a consistent stable relationship with this guy. So I would just be careful about going deeper with that guy.
It sounds like a red flag to me, but yeah.
There's a lot of men out there. Like, don't make it more complicated than it has to be. There's not one magic person for you. There's a spectrum of incredible people.
Yeah, absolutely. So gosh, that is so true. If I could drill one thing into everyone's consciousness, there are so many great guys out there.
So many.
Yeah. Cece asks a question for Matt. My boyfriend and I were separated for 4 months. How do we build a stronger bond?
Well, that would depend on if they're reunited or if they're still separated, right? If you were separated for 4 months and now you've reunited, I think that's a really cool opportunity for you to sort of like hit the reset button and sort of have a new honeymoon phase, like start the dating process over. Like if you've been reunited after a long absence, have like a first date again, right? And just get to know each other again and have like a fun, connected experience.
Treat him like a brand new man.
Treat him like a brand new man, right? And you have all those new experiences for the first time, like your first kiss and your first everything else, and just sort of like enjoy the process of getting to know somebody kind of from the beginning again.
Yeah. Great answer to that. Dee asked, do you think that men need to feel that they might lose you to stay in love? Wow, that is a great question. I know a lot of people have that opinion that in order for a man to fall in love and stay in love, there has to be a little fear that they might lose you. I don't think that's every man, but what do you think about that?
I think a man doesn't need to feel that they might lose you, because I think that if you want a man to be emotionally vulnerable with you, like he needs to feel safe, that you're a safe space for him to drop his walls in. So you don't want to keep a man off balance to the extent that he feels like, oh my God, like she's about to leave. I think that's actually a block to emotional vulnerability. But I think that it's okay for a man to understand that you are powerful enough in your understanding of who you are, and you're magnetic in your understanding of your value and your worth, that if he does not honor and respect you, that he will lose you. Like he needs to recognize not that you're looking to walk, but that you're willing to walk, and you're able to, and you won't hesitate to do so if he doesn't treat and honor you the way that you deserve and that you're worthy of.
Totally agree. Yeah, that's the other side of this, the balancing it out with knowing your value and all this stuff. We're about an hour in. Are you okay to keep answering? So these are great questions, you guys. We love them. Patricia says, is it possible to reconnect with a man after you showed your masculine energy? I think I scared off the guy I'm seeing. Not sure if he's sensitive. I would say yes. If the attraction was there at the beginning, right? It is possible to recapture that and reconnect it. If it never was, if it was always you chasing after him, I would say don't even bother, just drop him and move on. But absolutely, yes.
100%. Yeah. And it really just comes down to, what would it look like for you to soften? What would it look like for you to drop your walls? What would it look like for you to make an invitation for him and to not be so forceful? Because if you were in your masculine, you were probably trying to push things along, right? And so what would it look like for you to sort of take a step back and be that playful, spontaneous, inviting, freeing force in his life? And then you get to basically throw him the ball and see if he takes the shot. Like you can't force him to step into his masculine with you, but you can throw him the ball and see what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This was perfect timing for me. Ramona says, we got like 3 different questions about what if the woman's not making money? What if she's, someone else said that she has 2 kids, she started a business. And then someone else down here, I have an illness, terrible financial mode. How do I date? So 3 questions around the same topic.
Well, I mean, I think you got to look at, what's your come from in wanting to date.
Yeah.
If you're illness disabled and you're in frantic survival mode, like if you were a client of mine, my first advice to you or my first guidance would be like, don't focus on dating someone right now. Focus on, doing inner work and really tend to your own garden right now. Like get yourself out of that, because any relationship you attract when you're in a fearful sort of like scattered survival mode is going to be a reflection of that, because our relationships are just a mirror of our own inner state and our relationship with ourselves. So I wouldn't even make dating a big priority, because if you do, it's just going to be like something you're trying to use to escape from the pain of your own life, which is not a good come from for a relationship,
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I talked about it earlier. If you're depends on where you're coming from. If you're coming from a, let's see, like wounded feminine energy place, meaning you're dating because you're waiting for a guy to come along to save you or fix your life or help you out financially or something like that, you are in danger of attracting a man in his wounded masculine, which would be like a controlling, kind of man, maybe a narcissistic man, who
narcissists
wants someone who needs
love
him, right?
that. They love women that are, like disempowered or fearful, because narcissists love to basically enslave women. And the first step they do in doing that is sort of deprogramming them and disassociating them from their own value. And so if you're already halfway there where you're not valuing yourself to begin with, it makes their job so much easier. Yeah, you don't want to get one of those boys in your life.
We should do a video on that. That's
I would love
such a common thing. Okay, what do you do with a man who comes towards you quickly, is everything you want? How do you slow him down? We are older, Linda asked. Great question. It's kind of the other side of it. How do you slow him down?
Well, I think first off, it's important to recognize that that's your role. And I was going to say that. Yeah. I use the whole metaphor of a conductor. Like, you are the conductor. And one of the most important things a conductor does is set the tempo. Right? A man, as that masculine driving force, is going to be pushing the envelope with you. He's going to be pushing the envelope with you physically. And, a lot of times, like situationally, like he's going to want to press the relationship forward, because men are results oriented and they are the driving force in their lives if they're in their ownership of their masculine. So the way that you set the tempo with him is by setting positive, constructive boundaries with him. Be like, I would love it if, we just took this a little slower. It would make me so happy, if we could go on some more dates before becoming more intimate. Like, don't tell him, like, you don't want to just like, tell him, don't do that, stop doing that, When you set negative, restrictive boundaries, you are in the danger of activating his mama trauma, and making him feel like he's like the little boy who's in trouble with his mom. So as often as possible, a way to set powerful boundaries with a guy is by the establishment of positive, constructive boundaries with him.
Yeah, so important. Yeah, and I love what you said. It's not a bad thing. A man's supposed to want to move things forward, and he's kind of like the gas.
It's a good thing.
And you want to say, of course, this guy wants to be with me and sleep with me and be in a relationship. Like, of course, what guy wouldn't want that? And you are in total control of this, and you can pace it. You want to trust yourself to pace it, not get yourself into a situation where you feel that you have to back yourself out of it. So
exactly.
Let's see. Mariah said, I took my ex back, but we're both healed and grown. There are exceptions, right? Oh,
absolutely, 100%. Mariah. Yeah. Congratulations on working through that. That's amazing.
I feel like I have to wait for days to reply to a guy online at the start, or they just don't want to talk to me. P.S. We love you. I have to wait for days to reply to a guy.
She feels like she's got to do that lag time in order for a guy to respond to her. Look at your beliefs, because that might be a belief that you've created, that you have to like play hard to get, play the game with guys. And you got to recognize that if that's the way you start connecting with a man, he's going to be like, okay, she plays games. Cool. I can play games because, whatever. So you don't want to set that dynamic up.
Yeah, because that might be the kind of guy you're attracting too, right? 100%. What would happen? My question would be, if a guy who's totally available, asking you out, wants to take it to real life quickly, would that freak you out? Would that be like a little too much for you? Because that's often the other side of the coin. When we're attracted to men who keep us at arm's length, when a guy comes along who wants to like love us and give us everything, we don't feel turned on by that kind of guy if we're attached to this kind of guy here. So it's something else to take a look at.
Exactly.
In a situationship for over a year. I've grown since then, have gotten out of trying to make it more. Now he's
sporadically, it looks like,
mentioning or entertaining. Yes. Oh, Lisette says Matt's course is awesome. I did it this past summer. Highly recommend it. Awesome. Yes.
That's one of my rock star students.
So good. If a man gets bored, could giving space be a solution too? It could be my initial reaction to it.
It can be, but you got to remember, when a man's bored, it generally means that like he's not invested, like at some level emotionally. And so pulling back, like maybe he's gotten comfortable, and maybe pulling back or giving him space will interrupt that for him. But just be careful, because if you pull back and he's already kind of disconnected, that might just cause him to completely be like, all right, cool, well, she's gone, so whatever.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are my favorite relationship YouTubers. So cool you're alive together. Yes, absolutely. Okay, let's see. So difficult to find a balance of giving from an overflowing cup and giving too much. Let's see. Well, that's a random people on here, huh?
I know, yeah. I love these fun trolls. They're so funny. Politics and all sorts of wacky people.
It's funny. Hey, you're welcome to come watch. It's fine.
Bring them on.
Hi there. Since I stopped believing in Disney stories and giving them good sex and disappearing after it, it's been like a trigger that detonates their interest to pursue me. since I stopped believing.
So it sounds like she's pulling the wham bam, thank you, sir, and it's causing men to pursue her.
It's been like a trigger that doesn't. They're interested to pursue me. Wow.
Well, but what are they pursuing you for? Is I think the question. Like if your game becomes, which that is a game, basically like I'm gonna roll into your life, I'm gonna give you the best sex you've ever had, and then I'm gonna ghost you and make you chase me. What do you think they're pursuing you for? They're pursuing you to have more sex with you.
Or the conquest.
The conquest. Right? Then you become a conquest to them, which, I'm not saying I'm not saying you don't want to pose a challenge to a man.
Right.
It's important that you provide an element of challenge and an element of quest to a man. You do want to, hold your frame enough and be in ownership of your values to the extent that, a man feels like you're a challenge to him, that you're not just collapsing into him. But if you become just like a deliberate, almost like manipulative conquest for him, he's going to play the game because A, he loved having sex with you, and B, like conquests are something that men get off on, but they're getting off on it from their ego.
And then once they get you, that's when you.
And then once they conquest, they've slayed the dragon. Yeah. They're friggin' off to the next conquest. They're on to the next castle. You got to be careful with. You got to be careful with activating a man's ego like that because it'll validate your ego because you'll feel him coming after you from that egoic space. Yeah. But that isn't a sustainable model for a relationship.
It feels surface level to me.
It's going to create a surface level dynamic with men that, you might get off on a level, but it's not going to create like a lasting, meaningful relationship that's going to be healthy with him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that was it. I think we got to everyone's question. We were doing this for over an hour.
I love it.
Let's do 30 minutes and it's like overdone. But this was so much fun. Totally flew by. Anything else you want to say about this topic or your course?
I just want to say that, like connection is absolutely available to each and every one of you. Connection with men, connection with yourself, and just your relationships can transform in an instant. And the course that I'm offering y'all, that's in the caption, my free course, Mastery of Connection, if you do this work, you will absolutely transform your relationship with yourself, and you will transform your relationship with men and people in your life. So take a second, click that little link and sign up for our course. We start December 1st, and it's going to be just an epic experience for everybody who joins.
Yeah, it definitely was last time. Like amazing. You give so much personal attention to all the women. It's amazing. It's not just free to apply, you guys. It's free for you to take. If you come from my community, make sure you say you found us through this live stream, and Matt will make sure you're totally taken care of.
Exactly. And it's a course that I normally charge, like $2,000 for. So I'm offering it for free to Helena's community as a way of really connecting, a lot of people with this work because I'm so passionate about it. I spent many, many hundreds of hours putting it together because this is the foundational work that I do with my one-on-one clients. Yeah. So I wanted to make that work something and share that with the world in a deeper way. So, click sign up, and I am personally connected to the group. I do office hours twice a week for everybody there. So you get live coaching from me twice a week on Zoom and in our Facebook group. So you'll get a lot of one-on-one attention from me in the course.
Yes. Amazing. Oh, you guys are so welcome. You're so sweet. We love you guys so much. We'll hopefully do this again soon. Next time you come through California, I would love to do this again soon. This was amazing. Yeah. Thank you guys. Have a great weekend, and we will see you again soon, hopefully.
Bye, guys.
Bye.